Good morning, everyone. We are so glad you're here to join us today for the United Way Job Seminar, Session 3, which the focus will be on building your brand and discussing our social media presence. So my name is Mandy Pope. I've had the privilege of being part of the planning committee for 5 years. I'm also proud to work for a woman-owned and led company, Fidelity Investments. Fidelity is committed to inspiring better futures, which is exactly aligned to what we hope to accomplish today. Along with a group of dedicated individuals who thoughtfully created content that is meant to inspire, equip, and motivate you, we all look forward to giving our time and efforts to this because we believe in you. So for today's agenda, we'll kick off with some questions and answer session with a truly inspirational leader in our community. Then we'll learn how to build our personal brand using social media. We'll discuss how you can continue your learning with our online toolkit and close with a wellness moment that we all need right now. Make sure you stick around to the end of the day or end of the morning, as we have 4 $25 gift cards that have been donated by Pick and Save and 3 books written by our speaker, Clarion Mitchell, that we'll be giving away. So we'll talk a little bit about virtual meeting etiquette here. So your microphones have been turned off. You don't have to worry about that. Please submit any questions you have along the way using and comments using the question panel. And note, some of today's session will be recorded. So before I close here and turn it over to Jane Toma with United Way, I do want to share a quote from T.D. Jakes that I thought was appropriate to keep in mind for our goal today. If you always do what you've always done, you'll always be where you've always been. I'll say it again. If you always do what you've always done, you'll always be where you've always been. So let's focus in, everyone, because this session will give you tools and resources to step out onto a new path. Thank you.
Great. Good morning, everyone, and a special thanks to Mandy and Fidelity Investments for being our lead sponsor for this particular learning series. It's wonderful to have their commitment and support, and Mandy's been a wonderful volunteer as we've pulled this together for women in our community. And I'm also really excited to introduce our first presenter, Angela Mancuso. A strong commitment to providing safety and accessible programs for survivors of domestic violence, sexual abuse, human trafficking, and child abuse has motivated Angela Mancuso, Executive Director of the Women's Center, through 2 decades of dedication to her profession. The former co-executive director of Milwaukee Sojourner Family Peace Center, Angela joined the Women's Center in 2013, where she remains today. In addition to leading the Women's Center, she is president of the board of directors of the Housing Action Coalition in Waukesha County, which works with community partners to address homelessness. She's also a United Way campaign cabinet member, serves on the steering committee of the Waukesha County Anti-Human Trafficking Task Force, and in 2017 was appointed to the Governor's Council on Offender Reentry by then Governor Scott Walker, an appointment she still holds today. On September 12, 2012, she was given a mayoral proclamation as Angela Mancuso Day for outstanding service to victims of domestic violence, and was also awarded Women of Influence in 2012 from the Milwaukee Business Journal. Angela is also the recent recipient of the 2020 Women of Distinction Award from the Women and Girls Fund of Waukesha County. She holds a business administration degree from Mount Mary University. So let's welcome Angela, who is here today to inspire us and provide some of her career guidance. She's a wonderful nonprofit leader in Waukesha County, and I think that brings really great perspective as well, because nonprofits are looking for wonderful dedicated employees in our community. So Angela has prepared 3 different questions that we thought would be really relevant. So let's move to the first slide. And so Angela, share with us, how do you find the right fit for your personality, style, goals when looking for work?
Sure. Thank you for that introduction, and good morning, everybody. So I thought of this question because it's always important to me to find a good fit for my personality, and so I thought maybe this would be relevant. So I would say the biggest thing that I have learned personally is you have to do the work inward first, you know, to gain some self-awareness. And this is important for any field that you might be interested in. If you don't do this step, you're going to find yourself in jobs that you don't like, and then never really learn any particular field, and eventually, you know, consistent job hopping will work against you. So, you know, some things that people can do, really determine what kind of job do you want, and be able to articulate why. It can be, it doesn't win over employers in an interview if we say, well, you know, what interested you in working at, you know, XYZ, fill in the blank, and you know, you can tell when people are really struggling with that answer. So you want to be able to articulate why. What kind of work environment or culture do you want? Because that's really a key to finding that really good fit, right? For your personality, your goals, your style. Try to identify what you would legitimately bring to the job. So if you can't mirror your work or life experience with the employer's goals or mission, someone's going to end up really unhappy, either you, your employer, or both. And I'd say really do your homework. So like if you're looking to work in the nonprofit field, for example, you know, look into the agency before you apply. And I don't just mean like scan the website. I would say like read the website, check out all their social media. For nonprofits, I think it would be important for people to look at that nonprofit's financials. Nonprofits pay salaries that are within their budget. So there are small nonprofits, and there are, you know, multi-million dollar nonprofits, and they will pay. They will compensate based on experience and based on their budget size. So that's also really important when you're looking for a really good fit. And just legitimately know why you want to work there. I really can't emphasize that enough. Are your core values linked to the mission of that nonprofit or that corporation? And I would say that these things apply whether you are unemployed, underemployed, or currently employed, but might want to do something else. So even for entry-level positions, I mean, maybe you don't have to do that deep of a dive, but it really is important so that for your career path, your economic sustainability, having the really knowing yourself and knowing what you're looking for in a job would be really important. And these are all things, by the way, that, you know, an employment counselor, employment advocate, et cetera, can help you with, because sometimes it can be hard to really isolate down what it is that you want. I mean, when I was younger, I wanted to do everything. I wanted to be a poet. I wanted to be a forest ranger. Seriously, I wanted to save the world and nonprofits. I wanted to do, I mean, I had to, through experience, I really had to isolate down what I wanted to do, and then try to link my personality. And you know, some other clues when you get your foot in the door through an interview, some other ways that you could kind of gauge if it's going to be a good fit for your personality, and or while you're doing the homework on that employer is, I mean, this might seem small, but scope out what people are wearing. If uniforms aren't required, then you can kind of get a sense. I mean, is everyone in suits? Is everyone casual? If you're a jeans person like I am, that I would tend to look more for a casual dress environment. But you know, that's just one small example. Make sure that you're comfortable with that. And this is, I mean, those are preliminary steps, really, right, to get there. But then as you're continuing to find your niche in employment, then you can you can expand broader on those. Like, what are you willing to compromise? What are your non-negotiables for your employment? And then just really be honest with yourself and be really honest with the place that you're interviewing with.
Super, thank you. Let's go to the next question, and it's about first impressions. So when you're doing interviewing, Angela, or thinking about, bringing members onto your team, what do you look for when interviewing applicants, and what stands out?
Sure. So I'm going to give you this answer from my perspective. My human resources might be looking for something a little bit different, but what I really look for is presence. And by presence, I mean vibe. What's your vibe? What's your energy? Does someone take up space in a positive way, not in an overbearing way? Some people think that having a presence means attitude. And I think that that's maybe a component of it, but presence is really your natural energy or vibe, and that emanates from each person. And I guess when I'm saying that out loud, it sounds a little like woo woo, but I really think it's important. And it goes along with trust. If you're trusting your gut and you're feeling comfortable and confident, that emanates. Like, you can tell if someone's not quite feeling it. You can tell if someone's not really present. And presence just really has to do with energy. And I would say that employers can also tell if you're faking the energy. And so you just want to, again, it goes back to what I was saying earlier, is trying to be as comfortable with yourself as possible. And, of course, it's okay to be nervous in interviews. That's known, that's understood, that can be a given. Being nervous still wouldn't necessarily affect your presence or your energy. I mean, if you really want a job, it's gonna show through the energy that's coming out. And having a strong presence means you have to be comfortable with who you are. So, I try to gauge if an applicant is comfortable with who they are. And it comes out in how people will answer interview questions. So presence also includes confidence, and it includes authenticity. If you don't have any experience but are confident and genuine that you really want that particular job, for me personally, I'm more inclined to hire someone who is authentic and real over someone who might have experience but isn't personable, isn't the warm energy isn't coming through. It's I think, and I hope people understand what I'm getting at with presence, but you can tell when someone walks in a room, and again, this is for any level of position to have that kind of presence. Think about maybe a store you've gone into, or a coworker you have, or something like that, and there's that person and people just gravitate towards them. And they could still be an introvert. They don't have to be the loudest person, the most gregarious, or the happiest person, but they have this presence. Some people have a soothing, calming presence. Some people have a kind of a goofy, silly humor presence. Some people have a really intense, serious presence. As long as there is a presence. And so, like I said, I think my HR director would probably say something different, like maybe appearance, communication skills, things like that. I mean, those are also very important. I'm giving you this response from me personally, what I look for when I am doing the interviews. And of course, you want to dress nicely and you want to present yourself accordingly based on the position that you're applying for, but that doesn't mean losing yourself or pretending to be someone you're not. And so I think the best way to create a good presence and a good impression is to be your authentic self. Doing that, again, I just go back to, it makes you feel more confident and helps you to build trust and earn respect and integrity, and provides your integrity shows through with the people that you're meeting. So self-awareness is really important. Being consistent with your resume also ties to presence. I have interviewed people who weren't sure what was on their resume exactly, and so that's not a really strong way to get off the ground with a potential employer. So again, know who you are, know what you put on that piece of paper, and try, again, you can be nervous, but you still want to have yourself show through and your natural energy. And I'd say, part of presence too is there's a statistic, something like it takes people 3 seconds or 6 seconds to make a snap judgment about you when meeting someone for the first time. And in that amount of time, they're forming an opinion about you based on your appearance or your body language, your demeanor, mannerisms, how you're dressed. If you're not confident and you don't have that presence, you might struggle. So I would say that if you have pink hair, piercings, tattoos, whatever, rock it with conviction, own it, and that will absolutely come through.
Thanks, Angela. Just a reminder to our attendees, please jot your questions in the questions panel. Angela will be open to responding to some of your questions at the end. And this is something specific Angela and I talked about a couple of weeks ago, is just the guidance and the opportunities in the nonprofit field. I have to say, when I went to college, I was a communications major and I wasn't thinking of nonprofit work. And it just so happened that my internship, my senior year at the University of Wisconsin, Green Bay, was at the United Way of Brown County. And that has led me to actually 32 years of service through the United Way mission. And so I'm just always, such a champion to promote our work because there's so much meaning in it and mission. So let's chat a little bit about that, Angela, in terms of what kinds of skills really thrive within the nonprofit field and social services.
Sure. So I'll talk about, I guess, what's referred to as soft skills or hard skills. So I would say if you're going to work in a nonprofit, and specifically social services, and by that I mean you're working with human beings. There's all different kinds of nonprofits. I mean, hospitals can be nonprofits, colleges and universities could have nonprofit status, but I'm talking specifically about the direct social services. So a key is, of course, empathy. Not necessarily, sympathy and empathy are different. So empathy is being able to put yourself in someone else's shoes. It's being able to see someone else's perspective and feel that perspective. It's having a sensitivity. And again, in order to have empathy, you have to have self-awareness. I would say conviction. So again, going back to what I was saying earlier, is what moves you, what drives you. I always say to advocates here at the Women's Center, our clients can tell if their advocate is not feeling it. They can tell if their advocate is not present. They can tell if their advocate is doesn't really like their job or doesn't have a passion for that particular field. They can tell. And that is a huge disservice to that individual who is coming to the Women's Center because they have gone through a very traumatic experience. So, be connected with yourself and know what your drivers are. I would say you need to be internally motivated to work in a nonprofit. And by that, I mean, you have to understand that the work that you're doing isn't about you. It's about the population that agency serves. And it can be hard. It can be hard and can be tiring too. So patience is also a really important skill. I can't emphasize this enough. Self-awareness is a skill. You have to have your stuff pretty resolved before going to work for a specific mission. It can be, you know, when you find that good fit for your personality, it does make things easier for some of these traits to blossom or develop. But again, it goes back to knowing yourself, knowing what your triggers are, knowing what, and really trying to ascertain what your role is and where your role stops and starts with someone. And that leads to also our active listening or reflective listening. A really important trait of being an advocate of any sort of any mission is listening. That goes back to it's not about you. So I don't know if anybody's had an experience where you're trying to talk to someone and you're talking about yourself, something that's going on with you. Maybe it's a friend, family member, employer, what have you, and you know, yep, and they get very, very excited and they just start talking. They start talking over you. They start telling you. They might finish your sentences because they know exactly what's going on with you, and even though you haven't said it yet, and then they're problem solving and telling you what you should do. You know, so in advocacy and direct social services, that can be that can be very off-putting. In this particular field with the Women's Center with victims of domestic or sexual violence, that can really alienate someone and make them feel like they're being judged, right? And we certainly don't want to do that. So really being able to listen, and active listening means you're not thinking or doing anything else. You're just concentrating on what the person in front of you is telling you and saying to you, and you're present. You're all in with that individual. Willingness to learn is really important. And, you know, there are always on the job learning opportunities, staff development opportunities, and that's very important. But you have to be willing to adapt and adjust what you know, maybe what you learned in school, maybe what you learned from previous jobs or your life experience. But you have to be willing to adapt and adjust so that you can fulfill that mission. And flexibility is an important skill. Nonprofits, I think perhaps more than other fields, need to be super fluid and flexible because the needs of the populations that they're serving will definitely change. So being able to being flexible and open to doing something differently, doing something new, and again, embracing it and going all in. And I'm just going to add this because I have not heard this really talked about a lot, but you know, I'm a big fan of applied knowledge. So, which might be life experience. Maybe you're applying for a job and you don't have the prerequisites or the required on the job skills, but you have life experience. Now, to get your foot in the door, you have to really be able to articulate your life experience and how that would make you a good employee for whatever position you're applying for. But applied knowledge, I think, is critically important. And applied knowledge also is there's textbook knowledge and there's applied knowledge, and of course it's great if there's a combination of the two. They can complement each other, but I would say again for direct service, that's where having some experiences that you can tie to the mission of that organization or the job description of that organization can go a long way. And I guess I would just say, don't take a job in a nonprofit where you don't care about the mission, or you just want a job, any job, because I can tell you that rarely works out well. It's and sometimes having lots of turnover can really set people back, right? Employers then are looking at an employment history and thinking, well, you haven't stayed anywhere long enough to maybe absorb that information, and that also affects applied knowledge. But sometimes it might work out, but only if it ultimately aligns with your personal goals in life. So another reason employees of nonprofits to work for nonprofits, something to consider is that our paychecks and nonprofits come from someone else's paycheck, right? So we have donors, we have people we have to fundraise for, we're asking for money. The bulk of any nonprofit's expense is going to be their greatest resource, which is going to be their employees. And generally they have to fundraise. And even if it's an organization that gets all government or public dollars, that money generally comes from taxpayers, which comes from someone's paycheck. So it's a giant disservice to the mission of that organization and to the individuals or population that they're working to serve when someone works in a nonprofit and they don't care about the mission. And I mean, so you need to be invested in that mission. And I would say, of course, communication skills are really important in any job, and also definitely in nonprofits. Having compassion and passion. So, these three questions, kind of build off of each other as to these are things that are important to us at the Women's Center. And also, I've had good and bad experiences personally in each one of those. So I'm speaking from applied knowledge and from experience. So I hope that makes sense. And I guess just one other thing. Yeah, good.
All really great information, Angela. Great guidance, just sharing experiences. Alex, just a quick question. Do we have any questions for Angela in the question box?
So we do have a couple questions, it looks like.
Okay.
First one, outside of obtaining degrees in the social service realm, are there any certificates that you can recommend for someone to obtain?
I think it depends on the field. So, for instance, like missions like the Women's Center, we tend to get a lot of social workers or I guess women's studies, criminal justice or social justice, and I believe there's also certificates in or combinations of that, but it would depend on the position. I mean, if I were looking for someone to do substance abuse support or counseling, that wouldn't necessarily have to be a 4-year degree. It could be MATC has pretty sure they have a certificate program in substance abuse, and so it would really depend on the kind of position. But what we look for at the Women's Center is either some positions might require a college degree or an associate's degree, but again, I really push for applied knowledge and experience. I can tell you all that I worked in nonprofits almost 15 years until I went back to school. So I went back to school when I was 30 and got my business degree, and I was already working in nonprofits. So it doesn't always have to be that you have to have, don't be completely deterred by education requirements all the time. I guess it's worth investigating with that employer if you're interested to find out what they're willing to compromise on, because sometimes in job postings it'll be very very black and white. But I mean, that's what I had to do. I talked my way into a nonprofit job that required a college degree, and I did it through sharing my life experience and how I was going to take that and apply it to that position.
That's great. And I guess in the interest of time, we want to keep everyone on time here. I think that will be the only question we have time to take. We're going to be moving into a video. So special thanks to you, Angela, for sharing your thoughts today and being a great mentor in our community.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
So let me just introduce our video at United Way of Greater Milwaukee and Waukesha County. We are helping people overcome barriers to finding permanent family sustaining employment. And we recently had a chance to create a video featuring a woman named Margaret, and her story is really powerful. Margaret had been training to become a registered nurse before receiving a felony conviction. When she was released from prison in March of 2019, Margaret immediately started job hunting. Despite the challenges she faced in her life, Margaret focused on building a bright future for herself and her daughter. And she's with us here today via video to share some insights and inspiration on how she overcame her barriers to employment. So we are grateful for Margaret participating in today's session. She is actually also featured in one of our annual campaign videos and inspiring many people across our regions. So a special thanks to Margaret. And now I'd like to introduce our key presenter on social media presence and building your personal brand. I'm happy to introduce Clarion Mitchell, who is the owner of TCM Communications, a social media branding firm based in Mequon, Wisconsin. She holds a BA degree in interpersonal communications from Cardinal Stritch University. In addition to her entrepreneurial endeavors, Clarion is an accomplished journalist, community activist, and public relations professional. For more than 20 years, she has worked to craft the image of community-based organizations and advance issues of importance. Clarion is viewed as a reliable source for accurate and timely information, as well as branding guidance. She has worked on the executive team for a mayor and was the first public information officer for the city of Milwaukee. Her nonprofit work includes the Milwaukee Urban League, Black Health Coalition of Wisconsin, the Medical College of Wisconsin, and many others. Clarion has been a print journalist since 1991. Her writing has been featured in Milwaukee's mainstream newspaper, newspapers across the country, as well as local and national digital news media. She added the title author in September 2019 when she self-published her book, Shine Online with LinkedIn. LinkedIn isn't just an online database of resumes. Clarion hopes the book helps people understand LinkedIn better and empowers them to leverage the platform to advance their digital footprint. So let's welcome Clarion. It's great to have you here today. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. You've inspired me to get going on my LinkedIn profile. It needs refreshing. So thank you for all the wonderful tips to really make it simple and really highlight what's key and what's important. So really
Thank you.
to have you here today. So I did want to reference that we do have an online toolkit and resource library that we've placed on the United Way webpage, and this is intended for all of you, that are attending our seminars, and it will continue to be built with more information, keeping it relevant. So we've got a number of different categories here. So just make sure you're visiting that webpage from time to time. And I will definitely look into, discovering other LinkedIn learning opportunities that are available in the community and can certainly place that on the resource library. Okay, now we would like to transition to a wellness moment, which is just so critical during these times of stress and uncertainty. I'm so happy to introduce our presenter, Jody Vickery. Jody is the founder and owner of Piece by Piece Grief Recovery here in Waukesha County and is a certified grief recovery specialist. Early in her professional career, she worked for 2 Fortune 500 companies as a sales manager for the Kellogg Company and for Bristol Myers Pharmaceuticals. After being blessed with 2 children, Jody wanted a job where she didn't have to travel anymore and could follow her passion for teaching. She went back to school and earned her master's degree in elementary education. She's been a volunteer for the past 5 years at Elmbrook Church as their grief share coordinator and feels privileged to be a connector of hope, teaching classes and workshops for those experiencing the pain of loss. Let's welcome Jody.
Hi, Jane. Thank you so much. Can you hear me?
We can hear you fine. Yes.
Wonderful. And unfortunately, the video is not working on my camera, but I'm just going to go ahead and go through my slides. But I just wanted to just say thank you. I feel like it's an honor to be here for everything that United Way does. I have a very personal appreciation for all the women that are watching because I've been in your shoes. As a woman, learning how to balance family and career. I've explored different career paths and a few very successful, a few not, but it was a great experience learning, some of the different paths that I was able to take and privileged to take. So Jane mentioned that I'm the owner of Piece by Piece, and I do work with a lot of people going through grief. And so today, I wanted to share with you basically 3 concepts, 3 things that have really helped me on my journey over the past 30 years that has given me a real nice ability to find a healthy emotional balance between my personal and my professional life. So what I'd like to do with that first slide that you're seeing is this is something that I use in a lot of my grief recovery classes, but what I would like to do is I'm going to show another slide where we're going to apply it to all of you with the focus of job interviews. So if we just look at this little chart, basically what the concept is that when we think about loss in our life, or really any relationship, divorce, loss of a job, whatever it might be, so often the things that we focus on in the past are regrets. And there was a study done that showed that 90% of our thought process when we think about the past is regrets, especially after loss. And only 10% is really about fond memories. And then when we think about the future, our thought process often brings us to a lot of worry. most people, 90% that have experienced a loss in particular, focus on worry. What am I going to do in the future? Am I going to be alone? How am I going to take care of my finances, funeral arrangements, things like that? And 10% is on planning. And so the goal of this, and my first nugget, my lesson of life for all of you, is that we need to have an intentional focus on the present. And so you see here that I have a big 0, because too often we don't find a lot of peace and happiness in our life because we don't spend enough time in the present. We spend too much time thinking about the past and the future. So wouldn't it be nice, right, if we could start practicing spending more time in the present? And how would that affect our state of mind and our productivity and our overall sense of well-being? So let's apply the same concept on the next slide to having a job interview. Let's pretend we just had a job interview, and I just threw the number 50 in there to say, let's assume that what you are all doing right now, you're working on things like resumes, interviewing, LinkedIn, social media platforms. So you're already putting, say, 50% of your time into the present moment. And that's great. That's what we all need to be doing. We need to be spending more time, in the present moment. So that's fabulous. But how much time do we spend, even with an interview, on regrets, fears, worry before and after the interview? What if I don't get this job? I should have answered that question better. Maybe I shouldn't have said I could work on the weekends. So, if you could go back a slide for me. Yep. So when we think about, again, staying focused in the present, it's good to have hope. It's good to have a plan. We're naturally going to spend some of our time thinking about the future and having hope. But we want to stay away from the fears and the regrets. And we just want to work on taking should out of our vocabulary. Not I should have done that, I shouldn't have done that. Let's just focus on the present. So it's all about focusing on the present. And one more thing I want to say about hope. Hope is a really good thing. I hope they liked me in the interview. I hope they appreciated my sense of humor. But sometimes you have to be careful about hoping your way out of action sometimes, and you start to do nothing sometimes because you think, well, I've done as much as I can do, and now I'm going to just keep hoping that that next job, that next interview will magically happen. And when it doesn't, we start to feel hopeless again, and we kind of go into that cycle. So there's kind of a gift of hopelessness in that it always dumps us right back into the present. So the only place that we can make change in our life is staying in the present. And then the next slide, another little lesson, a few nuggets. And I think Angela touched on this earlier, but I've broken this down into the ability to just know who we are, a second lesson in our overall well-being. And when I talk about true self, I think we can all relate. It's our authentic self. Who am I? What are my core values and beliefs? What's important to me? Am I honest with myself at all times during the interview? Am I being honest with who I am? Do I stay true to my heart? What about false self? That's basically trying to be something we're not, or maybe we're trying to be what we think other people expect us to be. And we're trying to impress the interviewer. That's natural, that's normal. But I just want us to be aware that we all tend to wear a mask in life sometimes, and especially women, we wear so many different hats. We're a wife, we're a mother, a business partner, a romantic partner, a friend. So it's so easy to get overwhelmed and kind of fall away from our true self and fall into that trap of a false self. And then the third self is, of course, our higher self. When we ask ourselves, what is our true purpose in life? What's my higher calling? What's God asking of me? Do I do my best to glorify him every day? Do I practice loving other people? And so if we start to really know the differences between all these, that's great, right? And it might sound really easy when you look at it on paper, the differences. But I want you to remember something, that the relationship that we have with ourselves informs every other relationship. So family, friends, employers, employees. So my suggestion and my little nugget of a lesson today would be, again, to focus in the present, to know your true self, and work on your higher self. And then on the next slide, the final slide is basically what I call the 3 C's. And these things, these 3 C's, they begin to grow within us naturally when we focus on the first 2 things. And so under confidence, you know, it sounds pretty self-explanatory, but when I say accept who I am, I mean all of us, right? All of me, the good, the bad, the strengths, the weaknesses. And it's hard to not always do that. And so I know I'll persevere. You know, sometimes I'm not going to get the job I want, right? But you have to pick yourself back up, and perseverance builds character. And we build connections when we're present with people, when we listen more than we talk. I think in interviews, you know, we try to find that good balance. We want to be a good listener. We don't want to talk too much, but we don't want to talk too little. And it's always good to assume that you're going to learn something from another person, whether you tend to like them or not like them. And iron always sharpens iron, if you've ever heard that in Proverbs. You know, we all help each other out when we work together. And finally, conviction. I think Angela might have mentioned this as well, but you know, when you're convicted with something that you know that you're focused, you're prepared, you're grounded, and you're ready to just face the world and take it on. So the 3 C's are kind of the final thing, and I've really learned a lot of these in my life experience in the past 57 years of learning who I am, just learning to be my true self, staying focused in the moment, and really building on my confidence, my connections, and my conviction. And so that's my 3 little nuggets to share with all of you today. And thank you so much, Jane and Mandy, for just inviting me.
Wonderful. Thank you, Jody. And thank you, everyone, Clarion and Angela, for the thoughtful and powerful information shared today. And for everyone that joined today, sometimes it's hard to know where to start, especially when there's been so many great ideas and tips that we've shared this morning. So my challenge to you is write down at least 3 things you want to start doing or applying for what you learned here today, and then just pick one, circle it, underline it, and focus on that item first. You know, it's always baby steps, and that's how you make progress down the new path. So we do want to continue to create momentum for you and some additional opportunities that we have to continue to prepare yourself. So, you know, we hope that you would join us for our powerful finale of our Women's Job Seminar virtual session with next week's Fireside Chat. It's on Wednesday evening, so Wednesday, November 11th, from 5:30 to 7:30 p.m. So I think that might be updated, but you can go on the website, and we'll give that link in just a moment, and you can sign up and get more information. So just to tell you a little bit about what we will be talking about, we'll be hearing from local working women on how they navigated through the challenging last few months and what advice and encouragement they have for each of you as you move forward. You'll be able to ask questions during the event as well. And our ultimate goal will be to remind you all of your worth. You all have worth. Help you continue to learn more about envisioning your future and how to help put the right tools in place to get you where you want to be. So it's sure to be a session you don't want to miss. And then after that, we have another 3-part series sponsored by CIBM Bank, which will be on financial empowerment. You can find out more information and sign up on the United Way website, as well as checking out the online toolkit that does have other pre-recorded sessions as additional content and information to continue your learning. So we do ask for your feedback before we wrap up today. So we have one survey question we would love to get information about, and then we'll be doing the drawing afterwards. So our quick poll today is, do you feel confident you can utilize LinkedIn as a job search tool after today's presentation? So very much, somewhat, not at all. So please click on the description that you think is the best fit. Just kind of tell us where you are, because we all started at different points, and so we're all going to be at different points where we ended up this morning. When we get the polling numbers here, we'll show that so you can see how you rate compared to others. Wonderful. So we have quite a bit. Everybody's sort of moving up a level. We have a very much, we have a somewhat, and we have a few at not at all. So you know, that's where now you know where you're sitting, and definitely something maybe to put on that list of 3 things you want to start doing or applying. So Alex, I think we're ready to start the drawings. Are you ready?
I am ready. Got everyone's names here written down. And my Live United hat. So I think we'll do the pick and save gift cards first. So the first winner is Jenna. And Amy. Lauren. Last one here is Julie. All right, and then we have another drawing for the LinkedIn book written by Clarion. First winner is Cindy. And Kim. And Yvette.
You'll be mailing those out to the individuals or the organizations through which they signed up, Alex? So thank you. We'll be mailing those out to the individuals or organizations through which they signed up. You know, any questions regarding today's session, please reach out to Jane Thoma. The contact information is provided below. Just a final thank you for all of you for your participation, and I hope to see you at the fireside chat. Have a wonderful rest of your day, everyone.